Starting new stuff right now. Yep, I'm gonna start some new stuffs from scratch here. Yeah, I'll pull up my
This will be the entire.
yeah,
I feel like that's what my
that's what they're doing.
we gotta hurry and cram this in, 'cause it's your whole final.
Yeah,
Oh.
we've got like 1 week to learn all this, right?
Don't put-
Yeah, imagine that, right? Yes. So definitely like this is like CAD's 3D is a little bit labor intensive. They have back like it was horrible. I didn't use it since 2018 until I started teaching again last year. It's way better than it was in 2018. I feel like CAD 3D has gotten better. They kind of backfill it with maybe some of their other programs that are better from, some of the functionality of I think even Revit and Inventor have made their way back into CAD 3D. So it's better than it was. And so what I want to say off the top here is I've got these two that we're going to draw here. I can push the due date for the table back into next week. I'm not so worried about it being done Sunday. So I may change this and work on it Monday or something because next week we don't have a lot of theory stuff. We'll just have some more ADDA questions. And so I should be able to start jumping into drawing like, at 9 o'clock on Monday and draw Tuesday. We'll have a speaker Wednesday and then I'll draw Thursday. So I'm going to populate next week with a few other drawings. There's like 3 or 4 other little 3D objects we need to draw. These ones, we don't have to dimension anything. We just want to get familiar with the functionality of the 3D user interface here. So what I have is the first one is like 3D objects. And so all we want to do is we're just going to have like one drawing file with all of these shapes on it. And it's just because they're just like commands that are already like ready to go in 3D CAD to make from. I don't always use these shapes, but it's a good entry into 3D is just to use their simple 3D shape commands they already have kind of preloaded. So that's all this is. Just I'm gonna and we can probably blast through this pretty quick actually once we open it up. I just want to talk through some of the formatting more than anything actually. But so we'll have a drawing file. We're gonna do those shapes, and then we'll create a PDF file with one. And this is where Casey was telling me that I'm having a little issue maybe getting this to do like mine works for some reason. So we'll just see what happens. Um, but ultimately I'd like to be able to draw the shapes and then put one of the shapes on it and show how quick it is once you've drawn something in 3D, how quick it is to throw it onto a drawing was my idea. We'll just see if anybody else has issues or if I've got to troubleshoot what's going on. But um, ideally that's just one DWG file to upload and one PDF and no dimensioning or anything. Just kind of getting familiar with how it works on a B-size sheet. And so what I have here is a PDF. I'm really not going to follow this to the T. So it's old. It's from 2016. So it's an old PDF file. I can open it up. It's just that I'm not gonna. I think because they've changed CAD a little bit from 2016 to now. Obviously, that's almost 10 years ago. They've changed it quite a bit. I don't think I have to follow that close. I think they've made it a little more user friendly in these later years of 3D CAD. Old CAD you have to be really careful to like move the UCS or the XYZ coordinate to the plane you want to draw on, and that was kind of annoying and a little bit confusing. And I think this particular PDF goes through that kind of a workflow. I'm going to open up that PDF here. I think I have it in my. Let me just open it up real quick. So I've just kind of uploaded as a resource, and I don't think you don't have to use it. I don't have a better resource is the only problem. My better resource is just going to be like, I'm going to do it my way. But you don't know that because I don't have a file for that. I'm just going to do it on this video. But if I go into here, and it's the same way with the table one too. It also has an uploaded resource. The only thing is I think I marked it as like kind of an old resource and I'm kind of just doing the table like I'm going to do these shapes as well. But let me open this up. It was just like a chapter 16 from this 2016. And so it's just some screenshots even of this. It's not even like scanned in. It's just pictures that have come in. So yeah, they go through I mean, this is good information, but it's a lot of like manipulating the UCS or the XYZ little gizmo. And I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to I'm going to kind of do it like I would my normal 2D drawings. I'm just going to draw anywhere in model space. I'm not going to worry about drawing by coordinate point. But this thing goes through, it does have some, like some of the command, like like these 3D commands will be similar to our other fillet commands and offset. There's some you have some selections if you're watching your command line on how to do things. So, it's like any other command in CAD. There are some little things to watch for on your command line to manipulate, especially to make truncated cones and truncated pyramids. But so we're gonna do some cones, and I think I go through spheres, but I think it's all by coordinate points and all by like potentially, oh, I don't know. It does show you how the wedge command works, which is really weird to me. I don't use the wedge feature very often because it slopes from Z along X axis. Okay, so you have to kind of be strategic in how you use like a wedge command. But and they go through several different methods on how to use those. I think it's good information. A torus, some of this I never even draw. I've never even had to use a torus in any kind of like anything that I've just kind of mechanically drafted and drawn. So some of these shapes to me are not as useful for mechanical drafting as they would be for, I don't know, making a 3D printed part for fun or something, right? Some of these commands to me remind me of making, I don't know. If you wanted to make a football, there's how you would make one right there using the football shaped torus. So I'm not going to go through all these. And then it even includes this little exercise where you're drawing these things by coordinate points. I don't have to, I'm not going to do this as well towards the end of this chapter here. So some of this I use, some of this I don't. So I included the resources, something that is there for you, but I think really it's just a matter of I just want to go through the commands of 3D CAD and just slap them down on my model space as kind of a step one to learn it. So this is there, but if we just maybe follow in the video will be just as handy. And we'll see what kind of errors we have. But so if I'm going to go to CAD, this goes back to way when we started CAD, is if you so 3D CAD has a template already built, like a default. So if you would have downloaded this at home too, you'd already have the templates. So if I want to browse the templates that came with CAD, they send you to this file that it created on your browsers or on your file system somewhere. And we've been mostly everything we've drawn has used, when we originally made our templates, we used ACAD, DWT file, and then we used an ACAD ISO, which was the metric DWT, so that the grid spacing was in millimeters and the grid spacing here was in inches. And then, so they have the 3D versions already set up of those. So here's ACAD 3D is going to be the inch unit 3D file template. And there's the ACAD ISO 3D template in millimeters. I think for all of our stuff that we'll draw, I think is all in just inches, especially this week's. So you can open this. I'm going to open this one, but I'm just going to say open. And really, it's already set up to go in 3D. So the model space kind of just comes in with the Z axis shown. Really, so there's not a lot that has changed here actually. Like it's the same ribbon menu, especially if you're on your workspace browser. It'll be whatever you use last. So I had drafting annotation type of drawing loaded on my workspace, but this is the drop down that will change your ribbon menu. So you have 3D basics and 3D modeling. 3D basics is exactly what it is. It's just kind of a real basic 3D ribbon menu. So it's definitely way simplified. I just go to the 3D modeling one because it's just a more robust ribbon menu. There's a lot more functionality with it. It has everything that basics has, but then it has a way more, right? And so I'm just going to use the 3D modeling tab. And so when you click on this, your ribbon menu definitely changes. And it maybe it adds even a few more tabs actually. But so if I change that, this is how I can identify which kind of space I'm in. Is if my ribbon menu looks weird, I'm probably in the 3D modeling ribbon menu or the 3D basics. But 3D modeling is what I'm going to use. So, and it's just because 3D functionality has a lot more commands to it, but it has similar. So you don't have to think of it too much different than what you've done. I mean, we have modeling. Yes, we have a modeling tab that has like more 3D commands. We have a kind of a mesh. So we're not making actual like solids, but maybe we're making a mesh, which we won't do much here until we'll do some mesh work, I think, in Inventor, not in CAD so much. And then we have a whole like solid editing palette here. If we're solid modeling, then we can solid edit. So these are specific CADs to this particular 3D modeling ribbon menu. Our drawing is kind of the same. So this draw tab is really it's like smashed and little, but it really has our draw commands that we're used to using in 2D drawing. So this is like 2D drawing. I think there is a 3D drawing one that's been added, like a 3D polyline. I don't think I'll even use that. as we go through this, but I will use some of the just the 2D drawing stuff that we're familiar with. We have a modify tab, which is it's just got more functionality added to it, but it still has our, copy, rotate, move, trim, and offset. So a lot of this is still our 2D functionality with some 3D stuff moved in. And then we have section plane. Okay, since we're making 3D, we can actually choose a section plane, establish a section plane, maybe for drawing purposes. And then we can move our coordinates crazy. We have this new little drop down menu that will move our grid to these. Right now, I guess it's on the world, which I think is just, I guess, where I'm looking at right now. If I go to top, I don't think it changes much. Top is kind of like the world, but it's like the grid stays on either top or kind of bottom. I think top and bottom almost look the same, but you can see that the UCS Z is now going down. So it's like I'm on the bottom of that, and Z in the positive direction is kind of down and away from me because I'm viewing this from like a bottom grid plane. If I go back to the top, you can see the UCS turns and Z is now positive. So it's definitely fun. I'm moving around the UCS when I'm changing this particular drop down. If I go left, now I've just got to like look how the XYZ is oriented. So I really keep track of my XYZ when I'm drawing in 3D. In 3D CAD specifically, I am watching this my origin point and keeping track of it. It helps me navigate around a 3D solid for sure. And then I've got a right one. And what else do I have? Oh, a front. So you can see that like front here is going to say that Z positive is coming at us. We would always kind of draw on a front kind of plane like that with X and Z on a 2D space oriented like that, X being horizontal, Y being vertical, and Z coming at us in the positive direction, maybe. See ya. And then we've got back, so I'd be the other way from there. Okay. And sometimes I have to keep track of this. I'm just going to go back to the top one, top. Okay. And then we have a whole viewport palette added, so I can change the viewing style. So whatever I draw, I can either look at it as a wireframe or all of these different kind of different shaded. I think when I went into this, if you'll notice, it's on realistic right now. So the other thing, so I don't always use this to toggle on, but you have even in 2D CAD, if we had never paid attention to it, but up here in the top left is where I can actually change and toggle between those views too. So in 3D CAD, or when I open this 3D template, realistic was chosen, which makes my X, Y, and Z kind of look like they're 3D. If I go back to like 2D wireframe, they kind of look like a 2D wireframe, X, Y, Z coordinate. Yeah, go ahead, David.
How did you get that new ribbon?
Oh yeah, so that should be if you have this. Do you have this like little? It's because I went to this 3D modeling here.
Yeah.
So you don't have this little dialog box here? Yeah, yeah, this one here. Yes, it is called a workspace. Right by share. So if you don't have it, it maybe looks like that, and your default might always not have it shown. But if you come up here to this little weird drop down by share, exactly right. There is workspace. These are other things you could add to your quick access toolbar, by the way, too. So workspace is what I've got. Yeah, yeah. As a side note, that's also down here on your status bar, down on the bottom right, right? Like the little gear here is your workspace switching as well. And maybe if you don't have that, it's also considered workspace over here, workspace switching. Yes. So if you don't have a gear down here on your status bar, it's called workspace switching down here. And that's a gear. Yeah, and gear has pretty much the same here. So it's like, and it will change that above there too. So there's, just like CAD, there's more than one way to navigate through this, but I tend to use this one if I have it loaded. Yeah. I don't use the gear one down here very much, but I usually have it on my status bar, but I don't use it much. But okay, that's good. Yeah, yeah. And then how you know you're in 3D is because of this little thing here. So that it looks like it's 3D instead of just 2D. And when you open up a 3D template, it'll kind of already be it's going to switch from that 2D wireframe view to I think its default is to load a realistic view. And that's fine. I can just leave that for a minute. here's how this is another way to toggle through those. It's just from this drop down menu on the home tab. Once we actually draw stuff, we can see what the differences are. I've got this is a new palette, a selection palette. Layers is the same, so this is just our normal standard layers palette. Of course, this is a new template, so it has nothing. It's just a dumb template. It only has layers 0, so it goes with anything that usually I like to have layers to draw on because I can draw stuff and use them construction. Um, for 3D drawing, I kind of need similar layers I need for 2D drawing. I need to have construction work. I need to have like text, dimensioning abilities. So I kind of need all the same layers. So where this is a new template, I have nothing loaded yet. Then I have a new group one, and then I have a base here. So we're going to come to this. This is where I'm going to be able to load stuff to my drawing. Uh, Without having to, yeah, it's a little different than using viewports. It still starts with the same kind of layouts with an actual viewport, I believe. Yeah, it has viewports. Everything's on layer 0 though, because it's the only layer it has. So I'm just showing you that this is kind of the default 3D template, but really you can you can make any of your templates into a 3D template actually. So I don't really need to start from scratch. I can just open up my normal 3D or my normal 2D template and just make it into a 3D template, kind of. Yeah, I don't even need to really make it into a new template. I can just toggle on these things on the ribbon menu and make it into like a 3D. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go open my same old template, whether it's the one with all the layouts or I'm just going to open the B size layout one. So I'm going to go to my files here. And where I'm saving my templates should be back here in my general. I'm just going to open up my standard template that we've been using for the last since the last 8 weeks. Is the ASME ISU B size template is what I'm going to use just with my only my one B size sheet. So I'm going to open this up. Of course, it converts it to a drawing. Now, the reason is so I'm back to my model space that is just 2D only, right? And the reason why it looks like this is because 2D wireframe is selected as the view style. And generally, when I open it, it's probably on drafting and annotation like this, my old ribbon menu. So really, I can just open up my 3D, or sorry, open up my old 2D file. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I have all my layers already created here. So yeah, absolutely. All I've really done is just open my old template. Yeah, yeah. So all I've done is gone to wherever you're saving your templates, or if you're grabbing them off of Canvas. But I'm just opening my template that has the B size sheet in my folder where I keep it. Yeah, which I keep mine in the template folder. And I keep it right here, B size sheet, ASME inch ISU. And so just like I would start a normal drawing, really, I'm going to go to my model space. And now I'll just convert this over so it's 3D. And so all I got to really do is go up to the workspace or down on the gear and turn it to 3D modeling. I'll just skip basics. We don't need basics. We don't need training wheels. We're going to go to the robust. So that's that. It doesn't look like anything's changed really other than my ribbon menu. And then I can just go here or go here and change it to maybe like a realistic will be great. I don't usually use realistic, but that's what the default would load is this realistic. So I'll just go to that. Then it shows realistic here, but you can all toggle it on here too. Realistic 2D, your UCS looks like that. 3D, your UCS is going to look like that. So I just like that. It's a visual indicator. And it's also why I'm always keeping track of where my UCS is. Okay, so now I get to teach you how to use that freaking 3D mouse that's been sitting on your table for the last 14 weeks and hasn't been touched, but be cute as So grab that 3D mouse, and this is like everyone hates this to learn, but I love it. And so you're going to hate this 3D mouse, and I really wish I probably should be able to go down on my table and show you how I hold my 3D mouse, but I might just pause my video for a second and like demonstrate. But it's awkward to know how to use this 3D mouse, but I don't know if I can. If I was gonna I actually have a webcam that I could record this, but I think I'm gonna hit pause and just talk through. I'm not gonna put this on my video necessarily because it's kind of like a visual thing you need to see is how to use this 3D mouse to get around. But you really in order to even like start to use it. So here's me like using my 3D mouse. I'm starting to rotate around and I can like rotate to the underside or wherever. This is just me using my 3D mouse in 3D space. It won't work like this if you're in 2D. 2D wireframe limits the use of the 3D mouse. It can zoom in and out, but it really doesn't rotate in the world unless you're actually in kind of a 3D UCS world here. So it can either be, it doesn't have to be realistic. It could be like everything else, I think, is like 3D for the most part. Maybe not, but uh, I use shaded with edges is usually my 3D mode that I use, but I'm going to stay with realistic. It doesn't change the UCS much at all, but so you have to be this to use a 3D mouse. You kind of have to, and so I'm just going to hit pause real quick. So let's stop my sharing for just a minute. So let me just share my screen again. But yeah, the movement you see me doing here is I've just got my thumb and fingers on the joystick, and all I'm doing is actually just like pulling the joystick almost like, let me click on this so it does. Just, yeah, I'm just pulling the joystick up and down, trying to only do up and down, and it won't rotate around. But that kind of does a pan. Pull the joystick up and down. Yes. If you do a twist, it just spins that thing, right? So I'm just trying not to twist and turn it at all. I'm just twisting one direction. I'm kind of twisting counterclockwise right now, and it's spinning this thing counterclockwise. If I twist the other way, yes, it spins the other way. Oh yeah. And then if I just keep doing that, then if I like hold like if I twist instead of just like pulling straight up and pulling straight down, if I actually like pull it up at an angle, kind of, I guess is what I'm doing here to be able to rotate like this. All I'm doing is kind of like just pulling up one side of the joystick. So I'm not pulling it straight up and straight down like a pan. I'm pulling like up the front is to twist down and pulling up the back to twist up, kind of like this. That's where I feel like it feels like a flight simulator, the way maybe a flight joystick would feel here. So that's really the functionality is like to be able to like twist up like this to twist around and then to pan up and down, and then to zoom in and out, you kind of like pull it towards you or push it away from you. So actually, I feel like I kind of like grab the joystick and I almost like, instead of pulling it up and down, I like push it forward or push it back. And that's how I zoom in and out. So this is really weird. It's good practice just to look at a UCS and do that. You got to be looking at something. If you're often looking at a grid, you can see the grid at least. You can see how it moves around. But you definitely can get backwards. If you flip the grid upside down like this, you can kind of get lost. Your navigation wheel helps you a lot, just knowing, like I look at my navigation wheel a lot. And when you get totally lost, I think there's this little home button here. Usually this will zap yourself to like maybe what you've drawn, the home view of it. So I use the home view. If I've rotated around, I'm totally upside down. I don't know how to get back. If you click the home button up here, it'll usually orient you like this, I think, generally. Oh yeah, like a zoom extents. It works as well. Yes. And I feel like when you're 3D modeling, you'll get lost a lot. You'll be like, am I on the top or the bottom? And I don't know. It's just my eyes sometimes get a little weird. It's probably my age because I'm a 69-year-old Spotify listener, apparently. So my eyes, I get kind of lost in my objects. Using the home button, yeah, double clicking your mouse is good. If you A lot of people don't have 3D mouse, so if at home you don't have a 3D mouse, so the way you'll kind of drive at home is shift. I think so. We'll hold down shift and then you'll hold down the scroll wheel is how you actually, people without a 3D mouse will drive this way. So this is just me like clicking the scroll wheel like I would pan, clicking and holding the scroll wheel. And then if you just hold down shift when you do that in a 3D, you'll be able to have kind of the functionality of a 3D mouse actually. You'll be able to kind of, and so some people just do this. I mean, I have to do this at home myself. I don't have a 3D mouse at home. I'm surprised I haven't bought one yet because I am pretty attached to them. And yes, and so until me, this program did not have 3D mouse. And Alicia kind of was like, I don't think they need one. I'm like, oh yes, they need one. It's just a matter of learning how to use one here, and then once you learn it, in fact, one of my old students came over and in Revit came and grabbed a 3D mouse because he's like, can I use a 3D mouse? I'm like, yep. So yeah, you just get used to it to where it feels like it's the superior way to fly around a 3D environment is with that 3D mouse. But yes, scroll wheel, holding down shift, scroll wheel is that orbit command. What you're actually doing there is like if you mine doesn't have it up right now, but you a lot of times in our 2D modeling, we would have the another little like properties or a little panel over here that had like pan and orbit. I think it's just hidden here somewhere. Maybe it's this little minus sign up here, the viewport controls. Yeah, steering wheels maybe is what it's called. Steering wheels. Let me turn this on. Oh no, that's not it. That does work, but I'm not going to use that. It's a different one. I thought it was my navigation bar. Like, where is my navigation bar? Mine shows it's selected, but oh, there it is. For whatever reason, This is your navigation bar here. It's usually docked over here by your view cube. So if yours wasn't there, mine, it's funny, mine showed that it was clicked, but it wasn't. Usually it's turned off like that and turn it on like this. This is also, some people will maybe like just use the mouse click and like select, this is orbit. So the ones that are kind of helpful here, maybe orbit and panning. So if you click pan, yeah, it pans around the 3D world. If you click orbit, you're kind of, and then you just have to just use your left click of your mouse and you'll like orbit like that. So instead of having to hold down shift, I feel like that's probably less used by most people in general. That they use this and they use their left click on their mouse to do the orbiting. I mean, it's a good way. It's just like frees up your hand a little bit. I think most people without a mouse probably get used to holding down shift, scroll wheel, and that's their a lot of people that use CAD always have one hand on the keyboard anyway, so holding down shift is pretty like logical for people to jump into to orbit. I use my mouse, so 3D mouse. And this is why I use a lot of right clicking is because my other hand's on a 3D mouse and not so much on the keyboard all the time. Okay, so let's draw something though. What else? Is there anything else I need to say? Yeah, there's one more. So we have our ribbon menu set up. The last thing you want to add is 3D object snaps. So our 2D object snaps, right? Looks like the little square in a square, has those 2D object snaps that we're used to having to turn on and off. So one on your status bar is 3D object snaps. So we'll want to add that to our status bar. If it's not there, add it. 3D object snaps. Just because your 3D objects will have their own kind of snaps. They're a little bit different and it'll allow you to use both. So 3D objects are also kind of 2D line geometry. So some of 3D objects have some of the 2D object snaps in them as well. So I kind of use both. But here's what the 3D object snaps are. Vertex, midpoint on an edge, center on a face, a knot, maybe is like a node. I can't say. I don't have mine selected right now, but if there was maybe some geometry that I think I should snap to, maybe it's considered a knot. Perpendicular and nearest to face. So I think I don't know if what yours are. I don't know if I remember selecting these specifically or if this is just like default what's turned on, but I have these ones turned on. I feel like I use the top three most, like a vertex, kind of an edge of a piece of geometry, a midpoint of an edge is helpful, and then a center of face is helpful. So definitely these three, perpendicular maybe, yeah. So they just have their own kind of 3D object snap. So let's do a 3D object. The first the first assignment is just to run through the first kind of this drop down list of how you can model. I mean, like I say, I don't use these a lot. I usually draw geometry and then use like an extrude or a press pull to actually make something 3D. But for now, just for this one, we can just use their kind of like their preloaded normal 3D objects. I mean, I guess they can be handy. I would just say sometimes I actually draw the 2D shape and then extrude it or press pull it. So we'll do that probably next week. Yeah. Next week we'll do more of just like drawing 2D and then pressing and pulling it. But for now, let's just do a box, cylinder, cone, sphere, pyramid, wedge, torus. So really, I'm just running through all these different commands. So a box, let's just draw a box. So I choose the box command. I'm in realistic. It just wants to know, it knows I'm on the, really, I could say I'm on the top here. So what it's saying is it was on world, which I don't think it matters too much. World is pretty much like the top, I think, for the most part. What it is, it has the grid pattern like this. So really what it's giving me is like XY coordinates here. So these are XY coordinates. So really, and it's going to be drawing this on that particular grid plane there. So if you choose box and I'm on the top, it's going to say, okay, what are the XY coordinates? I might just pick a place out here like you would see me draw in the positive quadrant quite a bit. So if I pick here, so I just left click. Now it's just like, it's kind of drawing what a box, let me zoom in here a little bit. It's just well, maybe it's kind of weird. It's just drawing like a rectangular because a box would kind of start as a rectangle as kind of in like a 2D. It'd be like almost like a rectangle that I would draw. So I don't care what the dimensions. I don't think I specifically put any dimensions that I'm going to draw. I kind of kept it the same as if you'll notice like what fits on our drawing sheets without major scaling is like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 inch, 6 inch size stuff. A lot of our modeling we've done this semester so far has been in that size range. And so I'll just do something in those similar size ranges, like maybe like a 4x4 by something. So all you have, it's tab. It works the same way, like this direction 4, sure. Tab, this other direction 4. So maybe I'm making a square base, enter. and then what it has now is it wants to know like how I want to draw this. Do I want to draw this kind of like in negative, like down and away from me? That's why I can kind of see the grid. Like I'm rotating with my 3D mouse here a little bit. If I pull this way, it's a positive value, but really it's kind of drawing kind of like negative to the XY plane down. And if I just move my mouse, I haven't clicked anything yet. If I just move my mouse, here's kind of like drawing it up and towards me. So maybe I'll make a 6-inch one up towards me and hit enter. And that's just a box there. It's a 4x4x6. Yeah, yeah. Super cool. But it could have gone in either direction, at least from this grid. If you want to draw a box on the other grid, it would look like this. I would switch grids to maybe something that's like left. Is that the one I want to? Maybe I'll go right. Maybe I'll do a right grid here. And then I'm looking at kind of, and if I orient myself to how that other box was drawn, remember this box was drawn kind of like X, Y, and Z. Oh, this gets weird, doesn't it? Yes, it does. You get lost pretty easy. We drew this one here, X, Y, Z. So if I move this to like a right grid, yeah. Oh yeah, I think this is the one. Is that the one I want to draw, or did I say left? Maybe I said left. Oh, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. And so I'm not going to draw by coordinate points so much. I really don't care which way I'm going to draw these in some ways. I think the way I drew it, the image shows, I think I drew everything kind of from the base here. I just wanted to show that if I want to draw on the X or the XZ plane here, which one is going to be drawing me on like XZ? I was going to draw like one, let's see, or maybe it's front. I think so. This shows me the orient. This one makes a little more sense to me to draw. It's like the front. It's my front grid. Because really I wanted to draw something that looked like it was on the X, Y, X, but I'm going to actually draw it from here. The reason why this is there is because that's where I placed it. When I drew it there, it kind of was over, it was kind of in positive and negative Z value in a little ways. Oh, it's kind of confusing, I know. But if I now I could draw, if I chose the box, what I'm showing is if I draw the box command now, what I'm looking at is still two coordinate points, but it's going to be on this grid here. So it's going to be like, so if I draw the same size, see, it's going to go this other direction. It's going to be like 4, tab 4. And then if I pull it this way or that way, let's say I pull it this way, 6 inches. Then I have a box that's drawn that way. Yeah, I went to my front. I went to my front grid. It's kind of like learning how to draw isometric pictorial. We remember we kind of had to like keep track of what grid we were kind of drawing on. That's kind of the same way here. Like I went to a grid to the front grid, which is even more confusing because your thing actually says it's like the top over here, but this is what the grid system considers as the front. It's like X, Y. Sorry, X and Y kind of in our orientation for 2D drawing, and Z was either coming at us or away from us. So when I went to the front grid and clicked that down or clicked 4x4, it started with kind of the base on the Z is kind of 0 essentially. So it's on this like Z plane of 0, and then I drug it that other way 6 inches. This is confused. I don't want to go too deep into here to confuse you, but this is kind of how I need, if I want to draw a shape a specific direction from a grid, I've kind of got to be on that grid like I would on an isometric pictorial in some ways. It's just that I have a lot more grids to choose from here. Sometimes when I'm actually drawing stuff, I might just pick which grid it's going to be on. What's going to matter, I should say, is when you go to a drawing, it's going to consider this the front view. So like calling this the front is really for me thinking, well, the drawing, this might be, I'm thinking of more of like how I want it to show on my drawing as a front view. So I like that these are like front, tops, rights, and lefts because sometimes I draw things and I start them and I think of them as the front view. Well, then I would want to toggle on the front view grid plane and start drawing it in 3D on the front view grid plane. If my view is going to be a top view, then I might want to start on the top view grid plane and draw my 3D. This is going to matter more when we go to actually throwing stuff on a drawing and dimension it. And just like any 3D program, if you pick wrong, you can always you can always rotate this around and orient it how you wished you would have. Sometimes you will have like gone off drawing something in 3D and then you go to the drawing to plop it down. It's like, oh, that's not the real front view. You can always go back and change kind of the UCS. You can like reorient it to what you want to be the front. Sometimes just pre-planning that ahead of time just saves you some downstream having to fix it and modify it, but it is fixable and modifiable later. If you build something on the wrong grid plane, it is able to be modified. it's not the end of the world. It's just better if you can kind of pay attention to right off the get-go, and have that foresight as a drafter. What's going to be my front view? What's going to be my top view? If you think through that and just use the program as it's like set up, then it kind of saves you from having to fix everything later. But it is fixable. So it's not the end of the world. So my point is, just pay attention early on, kind of like we did with isometric pictorials. We kind of had to pay attention to which grid we were drawn on. It's the same way with 3D to me. 3D CAD is kind of keep track of it. In any case, I'm not going to keep this one. It's just like anything else. Like once you've drawn an object, I'm going to go back to my top grid pattern here, which is kind of like it's kind of like the default one that will load when you come into a 3D environment. So once you've drawn something, we can delete it here. This one's floating in space because I never really put a specific X or a Z coordinate to it. It's actually, I guess it's on Z this way, but the Y value was just totally random. So it's kind of like floating above here. I'm going to select this and just delete it right now. That was just me to show you that it matters which plane I'm on. If I didn't want this to be in the particular like negative X value land, you can move stuff the same way. So this thing can be moved. You can just select it and you have all these grips to move it, right? Like it just has more grips than a 2D shape. It has grips that I could modify the height, right? If I just grab this grip, I can drop this thing down and enter a new height. Maybe it's 8 that I want it to be. I think if I enter here, maybe 8. I don't know if that was actually 8. No, that's 6. Tab over 8. There, I just made it 8. So these grips kind of work like the other grips do in 2D. I have way more of them because it's 3D. So I can adjust the widths by grabbing and pulling, just like grabbing a grip, or I can enter the dimension in to change it. That one I changed to 8. I'm going to go back, tab, back to 6. Not that it matters. I think the center grip will allow me just to kind of move it by this grip. Yeah, I can slide it along. It's going to stay on that. It's not going to change its plane. I really can't drag it like from where its base kind of started. If that makes sense. Like if I grab this grip, it's not going to let me like pull it off. It's going to move it on this plane in space essentially. And I think it's the same way with the move command. So the move command was a modify command that we used all the time. Move, if I select move and select this object, it'll want me to select a base point to move it by. So I think the blue grips that you're seeing on here are the 3D grips, and I think the green maybe, and then I think the green grips are going to be our 2D grips, but I think the 3D ones show up as kind of a blue. Yeah. The other thing to note here on this first shape is that I did draw this on the visible object layer, by the way. So this will be whatever color you drew it on. So if I actually was on the construction layer and I had drawn this box, it's like a 4 tab 4, 4 tab 4, and it's 6 inches tall. It's just going to be the color of my layer. Essentially, that's going to control the color of it too. So mine, I did start with, I'm going to draw them on the visible object layer actually. So I'm going to delete that one, but that's one way to, I will strategically like make shapes to cut into other shapes and use them as construction color shapes. So, I mean, I still use it the same way I would with my 2D drawings. Strategically, I have those layers for strategic reasons. So, so that is the box command though. Let's do the other one. I don't know. I'm going to build them all on this grid plane just to keep it simple. Is there something else? Something else caught my mind that I was going to say. I'll just keep going though. So I'm just going to kind of run through these, and it's probably in like the next 5 minutes or so. So here's cylinder is the next one, and I'll draw them all on the same top kind of plane. Cylinder just wants to know a center point of cylinder. I don't care where these are at all, and I don't even care the sizes of them. Here's the cylinder, and it just wants to know the diameter. I'm on the wrong layer, so I'm going to escape that real quick and go to the right layer. But you can push it the same way. I don't have my properties panel up, but if I bring them up, I can push these things the same way I could a 2D object, right? I can push these to the other layers pretty quick. So I usually like to have the properties panel up. I know what I was going to tell you. This is what a realistic looks. This is what the realistic view looks like. I think it's good because you can kind of see the edges. That's what I like to be able to see. There's some of these that I don't like as well. Maybe just shaded. I don't prefer this one because I feel like I can't see the hard edges all the time. I get a little bit of a light reflection that allows me to kind of see the edges, but in some ways it can kind of disappear. So I like realistic now that I've worked with it a little bit, but my go-to is usually shaded with edges like this. And it's the same way in Inventor. I like him to be like shaded with edges as well. It just makes it way easier to kind of locate the edges, lines, and those grips that are associated with that geometry. So, I prefer this one, and I think realistic is pretty good too. What shades of gray? Pretty much the same. It just kind of changes little darker shades of gray. And then what else I got? I have sketchy. Yep, we can do sketchy. I don't use that one, but it's kind of cool. And then what else? I think X-ray. Wireframe is back to this, which you can't tell it's a real solid, but it is. I will toggle on to wireframe on the 3D version of wireframe. Um, Once I have a 3D object, it will allow me to kind of use my 3D mouse to rotate around. This can be strategic in how I may have to sometimes turn off the solid so that I can get into some geometry or do some maybe construction line work to draw some new geometry within the existing geometry. It can be hard to see through the shaded, so I can toggle on to a 3D wireframe so that I can just draw some construction line work to manipulate this geometry. Because what we're going to do is, the same way we would do with geometry in 2D. We might create some geometry and then cut it, trim it, and whatever. We're going to do kind of the same thing here. We're going to cut and trim 3D geometry as well. So, so I sometimes have to go, oh, that's 3D wireframe fast. I don't know. Here's 2D wireframe. I think if I go to the 2D wireframe, I can't use my 3D mouse. It wants to just stay there. It'll let me zoom and kind of pan, but my 3D mouse functionality is lost. So this wireframe is better for 3D wireframe. So I feel like I'm bouncing, like when I start to draw and create stuff, I'll bounce back and forth between this wireframe sometimes, and usually my shaded with edges are maybe realistic. X-ray is handy too. You can get to, this is not bad because you kind of see it as a 3D object, but you can also get to some of the geometry that when shaded, you can't get to it. So yeah, really, if it's shaded, it'll still pop up. You'll still see those grips, so those object snaps pop up. You just won't be able to tell. You won't be able to like tell which one is popping up. But if you go to this X-ray or if you go to like a wireframe, you'll be able to lock in on the actual grip that you need. But like X-ray to me, really, my eyes go weird. I have a hard time remembering which orientation it's in once it's like three. Anyway, so I don't use that one a lot, I don't think. I'll go back to realistic. So let's do just a couple more. Cylinder. Yeah, all it wants to know is I'm on the visual object layer. All it wants to know is for a cylinder what the base radius is. So this is, I just clicked it down. I'm on the top plane. So it's kind of, my Z is going to be at 0 essentially. And I don't care. This is maybe like a 2-inch radius cylinder. You could either have a negative cylinder that's going below our grid, or it could be positive here. If you're here and you enter like a -4, it will go down on you, is what it will. If you're pulling down and you enter, you just have to enter a positive value. So I'm going to undo that real quick. And I'm just going to do a cylinder that's in this positive value here. So it's going to be a 2-inch radius. And then, but what I'm saying is if you're already pulling in this direction, you don't have to enter a negative number. It'll actually kind of, it knows that you're pulling in that direction already. So sometimes I will just pull in the direction and enter. Maybe this is a 4-inch tall cylinder. Sweet. And then, so that's how cylinder works. What else we got? Cone, just kind of a modified cylinder is what it is. Cone. I'm actually drawing these just anywhere in space. I'm not trying to reference. I'll get to that in just a minute, but a cone is just going to be kind of like a cylinder. So I'll just do like a 2-inch radius cone here. And then it just wants to know which way you're pulling the cone. Okay, that's great. I'll just go anyway. Maybe I'll go up 4 inches tall. Sure. There's a cone that's 4 inches tall with a 4-inch diameter or a 2-inch radius. So the other option on cone is to do a truncated cone as a cone command on the same plane. I'll just do the same size as 2-inch radius. But before I terminate it, I can change the top radius here. So that's how you do a truncated cone. I mean, you have a command line here that just like some of our other commands, it just has, it's expandable, I guess, in some ways. If I choose top radius, it's like, well, what do you want the top radius to be? Oh, well, I want it to be, and maybe this is going to be weird because I went the wrong way here. So I'll go back into my command here. Cone. I think I decided it was going to be a 2-inch radius, going to be up in this direction. I might have T for top radius now that I'm up here. Now it's going to keep it. Yeah. And I think I did a smaller radius up top. There's like a Oh, and then it wants to know how tall it is. So I just entered like 1 for the top radius, and then the height of it, maybe I'll say it's 6 inches high or something. Doesn't really matter. But that's kind of a truncated cone, we would call that, which kind of acts like this in some ways, a loft. It's kind of like a loft from one diameter to the other. A loft will just do different shapes, like a square to a round or rectangle to round, or is a real common shape to transition to. What do we got? Sphere. Okay, so sphere. Sphere just wants to know what's its center point. It'll be on this plane unless you want it to be above it. And but then you'd have to change your orientation to something. But I'll just do a sphere here. I'll say it all on the top plane here. Sure, a sphere that's 3 inches in radius. So that should be a 6 inch diameter. It's the same way if you select this geometry and you have your properties paneled up, you get some control over it from your properties panel. Here's the diameters and radiuses. I think it's the same way with my cone. It'll show what its height is, what its base radius. So you can change those parameters from your properties panel. Okay, so there's a sphere because I was on the top grid pattern. It's gonna show that's gonna be the center point, and it's gonna be kind of below that a little bit and above it. What else we got? Sphere, pyramid acts like a cone does in a lot of ways, except for you can choose the number of sides. So even before you start, I sometimes will remember a pyramid can be different sides. So if you choose sides here, I think 4 is the default, which is good because that's like a normal pyramid probably. But if I did a 6-sided pyramid, then it wants to know the center point of my pyramid. Okay, it's right here. And then you can even rotate this, it's going to want to know the orientation, whether you're like staying on. And I have the polar snap tracking on, so I can still kind of snap to the X or snap to the Y grid pattern here. But I don't know what I did, maybe like a 2 inch one. And I wasn't in any particular orientation, so I'm kind of crooked there, but that's okay. So the pyramid works the same way. Maybe it's just like a really short one. I don't know, 2 inches tall pyramid. And then the pyramid truncated is the same way. So pyramid truncated would be maybe if I want to do a 6-sided one, 6. Here's where it's going to be. And then I should have maybe I'll do this one lined up correct. Maybe it'll be a smaller pyramid. But once you're getting to this functionality where you're adjusting how high or what the height of your pyramid is, you can pick top radius of the pyramid and say, oh, the top radius. I don't usually choose it that way though. Let me go again. Pyramid. I say maybe 1 inch. I'm gonna see. I think I'm gonna hit T for top, so it'll kind of help. Yeah, that helps me control that a little bit more. 0.5 maybe. The height of it. Oh, I don't know. 6 inches tall. They're all on that same plane because of the top. All right. Wedge is weird. I don't use it much either, but wedge, like that documentation said it kind of slopes from Z to X, I guess. And the wedge will kind of like build it's like building a rectangle in 2D. And depending on which is your first point and your second point, I think is also involved in the way the wedge works. I don't know. This one can't confuse me. It's kind of like an arc command. I don't use it a lot, probably. Here's my wedge. It acts like it's like so I clicked over here first and I pulled this direction. Maybe this is like a 4 by 2 inch wedge or something. And then see it's gonna slope, I guess, this way based off, I think, of where I clicked first. So maybe I'll say this is 4 inches tall. But if I click the other way, let me see. Wedge. If I click this from here and go this way, and this is like 4 by 2, yeah, it slopes the other way. So it's kind of driven. It's like an order of operations driven command a little bit. And then if I need the wedge to go the other direction, I've got to orient my plane that way and draw from it. So I don't know. It's kind of confusing to me a little bit, but and I don't know how useful it is. I would, in order to make this shape, you'd probably see me like draw like a more of a box type shape, and then I would draw something the way I want it to be cut and cut it. So I can't say that I would use this wedge command a lot unless I had a, nor do I use the torus very much, but it's like a donut or not. So torus wants to know the center point of the torus. And then it says, what is the diameter or radius? Radius is what's given. So that's okay. Maybe I'll say it's like a 2 inch radius. Then I think it gives me one more command of like, what is it? It's I don't know what it's called, the tube radius. Oh yeah. So the radius was the first radius was the overall radius from the out, and now I have like the tube size of a torus and what its radius is or its diameter. So if I go too much, it turns into kind of a donut. If I do like a -1, maybe this is how they create a football and stuff. I don't know. It's not a command that I've used much, 0.5. But so now that's a 0.5 radius tube essentially. So it's a weird command for sure. I guess for some geometry, it would be maybe a fast way to create it. Anyway, that's all. I just want to go through those shapes and kind of maybe I only need one wedge here. But I think my assignment just says make some pyramids, cones, sphere, truncated ones, and then you can just anywhere in model space and then just upload this drawing. Yeah, so you can save this. I will save mine as. I have a folder for these already, my 3D objects. I'll just have an in class one. Okay, so there's my objects. Now to turn this into a sheet, so because the layout we were using has this B size sheet, this is where I'm interested to know if you can do this or not, or if you have issues as well. Um, so your B size sheet already had a viewport that we would use. So in order, like the cool thing about 3D is it's way faster to make a drawing and you don't need a viewport. So I can delete my viewport. And now I'm just to a drawing with no viewports. And I should be able to go into my model space and over on your home menu, your home tab, I should say, clear to the end here should be this base. This is like a view palette here. So if I select base, it says from inventor model space. Ours is going to be from model space, from model space. Mine asks me to select the objects that I want to have a view of or a base view of. I'll just select anything. I don't care which one we choose. Maybe I'll choose this little cone right here. It says yours is opening. Maybe that's it. Maybe something. Yeah, is it acting like it's going to install it though? Oh yeah, maybe let this grind away and see what this does. Because what it should do, what you should be able to do is be able to select that like I've done. I've selected one object and then I hit enter. And then my next command says, okay, enter a new or existing layout name to make it. So it gives me the option to like pick which layout I'm going to go to. It's downloading or it's like defaulting to the only one I have, which is my B size layout. So I think I just hit enter, and then it takes me to that layout, and then I have my object here, and then I can place it. It's placing the front view. And that's why it's kind of critical if you can plan ahead and you're drawing a 3D object, maybe already plan it out to make your life easier on your drawing. And so the front view would be this in this particular object because that is the way I drew it. I was really drawing it from the top, but anyway. And then I can place this. What it does is allows me to click this. I can go back and do this because if yours are still loading, I just wanted to click through. Once I left click and place it down there, it brings up this options thing. And we'll come back and explore this. But if I just hit enter and say, okay, I just want to place that, I'm not going to make any changes, then you're still kind of in a command to keep placing it. And it's actually doing projected views here. So it's like, here's a top view. This isn't the best object for this because the right is the front essentially. So that doesn't look much different. And then if we project off this way, here's like an isometric view of that. And then I can just hit enter and escape that. They don't look like they're all shaded because that's an option. This is considered the parent though. It's like what all of these are driven from is this parent view. And so this one, you can click in here and here's like, it changes your ribbon menu to where you can get into some particular things to do with this view. And all of them are selectable essentially at this point. All these views you are selectable and you can manipulate them kind of individually. But I just want to make sure that this loads and does that for you guys. If not, I need to do some troubleshooting maybe. I'm hoping whatever it loads, this functionality that it will fix it. Has anybody tried this yet? Okay, so oh yeah.
And I have to restart it.
And I wonder if like I'm interested in this because Jen's computer and Kelsey's computer, you do not have Inventor. Like IT came in and wiped it because you guys were having some errors with it, and maybe they said they were going to come back in during Thanksgiving and add it though. So I'm interested to know if you guys have this or if it just has an error. Oh, I'd let it do updates. Just let it do it. Okay. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah, whatever you have, maybe just save your file as your DWG file before we start totally messing everything up.
He saved it. So I.
I'm gonna pause my video here for a minute.